Got it. Oh, I searched your name right. Hey, folks. We're doing the cooking show right now. Just thought I'd let you know that, we're cooking good meals and having a little fun here in the kitchen with, cooking with Andy. It's called aluminum. Cooking aluminum with Andy. There you go. I'm going to burn. But I'll tell you right now, the guy that you really want to talk to, the guy that's going to take you all the way through the hour of power, is Mr. Mark Sweetman, your massive host. Please take it away, Mark Sweetman.
Hey, I'm gonna let this tune play a little bit longer because I like coming along with it. I think I'm gonna do an a cappella version. There's no lyrics, but I've got all the instruments down. Right?
Cool. It's almost like sounds like you're. Bow. It kind of sounds like you're doing gun shooting, going pew pew pew
pew pew pew pew pew pew. Dun 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 dun.
Ba-dow. Ba-da-da-dow.
That's jazz, baby. All right, let's bring that down. All right.
I like the jazz. I'm with you on the jazz.
I like the jazz too. All right, now I use my phone for that. Let me switch my phone over to getting a hold of Sammy.
There's the new thing. There we go.
Yeah, Sammy Greenfield. Sammy, one of our regulars, is at the Barclays Center for the Nets and Wizards game. So there's your buzzer. I heard your buzzer.
I hit the buzzer.
So it looks like you got some meals going there. Hey, it's the off night, everybody. It's the night where comics get together. We used to do this 40 years ago. We used to meet at the back of the Comedy Castle or Leo's Comedy Corner. What else did we have 40 years ago? 40 years ago, we had
Joey's.
Oh, Joey's didn't come around until what? 84, 85, right?
Yeah, I think about that time, yeah.
Yeah, the Ann Arbor Comedy.
Having like 3 clubs, man.
The Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase. We used to hang out there. Anyway, so the castle's still around.
Main Street back then. Main Street.
Oh, that's right, the Main Street. Yeah, and it was on Main Street, as I recall.
Yeah.
Anyway, the Main Street / Ann Arbor Showcase and the Comedy Castle are and Leo's Comedy Corner are the only ones left from that era.
Yeah, have you been to Leo's lately at all or anything?
Not in about 4 years.
Yeah. How is it? Is Leo still? Is he still working that club, or is he just kind of like just?
No, he doesn't have a room per se like he did, where he owned the room and sold the liquor and all that stuff. That's gone. But the casino, I think, bought that land. I think they probably, if he owned it, he did pretty well. But I don't think he owned it. I think he leased out the space.
Got it.
But he kept, of course, he owns the name, and Leo's Comedy Corner is, a registered trademark in Canada. So everywhere he goes, we go as the Comedy Corner. And I've been over there a couple of times. I had a show there 2 years ago, and got my passport renewed for it and everything. And it got canceled. I can't remember why. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. Yeah, we should. Oh, you know what? And speaking about the old club, Bee's Comedy Kitchen was another one 40 years ago.
Oh,
you heard about? Yeah, you heard about downtown Tony Brown passed away this last week?
No, I did not know that. Oh,
yeah.
Oh, man.
Tony Brown. And I wish I had the technology to get a clip of him out here. I'm going to sit down. Maybe I should sit with my wife. She's pretty astute at this type of stuff, and figure out how to make some sort of a studio out of this thing so that I can put clips on, because it would be great to have a clip of Tony. Tony's Pinnacle was his Night at the Apollo. I can't. What do they call that? Evening at the Apollo. Whatever. The showcase at the Apollo. And he killed it, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I always liked Tony. We go way back to the early Bees Comedy Kitchen, back when it was called the Laugh Factory. Remember that?
No, not really.
From January '83 to June '83, it was the Laugh Factory. And Bee kicked her nephew out, Frank Joseph, who was a con man. And to prove that he was a con man, Bill Thomas calls me up about 10 years later. He goes, turn on Phil Donahue. So I click on Phil Donahue. By the way, Bill Thomas calling me and saying, turn on Phil Donahue was a biannual event. I mean, at least twice a year, I would get the call from Bill Thomas. Turn on Oprah. Turn on Phil Donahue, whatever it was, So I turn it on, and there's Frank Joseph, the guy who started Laugh Factory, Bees Comedy Kitchen. And he was on Phil Donahue, and he was a family rights or parental rights or marriage rights leader, speaking against homosexuality and gay marriage.
Oh, wow.
And I'm thinking, and of course, Bill and I are talking about it over the phone. Going, he's just in it for the money. There's no way he believes any of that crap he's saying. It's just some of the lore of Detroit comedy, Bill Thomas, we always talk about Bill Thomas at our reunions where we say, Bill Thomas was the Facebook before there was Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
He was the guy that would get everybody, in groups and get everybody talking and divide people to get them engaged, And that was Bill Thomas. He had a short career before his death. He had a short career as a radio talk show host. I did that show a couple of times. It wasn't bad.
Are you saying we shouldn't do this now? Is this what we do before we pass away? Radio show?
Oh, shit.
No, that's a radio show.
I didn't even think about that. Wow.
This is a podcast. We're okay. We're all right.
Well, I've noticed, have you seen in the news lately, all these guys, all these conservative talk show hosts on the radio who are against the vaccines and the masks, and everything, they're now dying of COVID.
Yeah.
I got to say, to the credit of the progressives in this in this world and in this country, we don't go dancing on their graves like the Westboro Baptist Church does for all the for all the servicemen who come home, where they go and protest their funerals.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. I'm done. I'm done trying to explain everything to people. It's sort of like, and when they try and get you into the conversation, I just avoid it. I'm like, all I can say is, I'm trying to tell people that come to the play in March and stuff like this. Are you requiring masks? Are you requiring? It's 5 months away. I'm pretty sure we're going to be done by then.
Hey, it's Jason Grant, everybody.
Jason Grant.
Hey. Good to see you. Center yourself in that rectangle if you can.
I'll do what I can here.
There you go.
I've got the Ed Gein lighting just about right.
Got it. So you're in the house with a computer.
Near the computer.
The computer.
Completely lost. Hold on.
I never thought this would be the roughest thing for you to get yourself into the square. There we go.
Doing selfies is usually something I'm good at, given previous experience. But is that any better? Yeah. Hold on. How about that? There we go.
There you go.
That sounds good. Now, do you have mic control?
Yeah, I think.
If you could pot yourself up maybe a couple notches, because Andy and I are about at the same level.
Yeah.
I should probably just get a little closer to it.
Oh, that works.
Yeah.
That works.
There you go.
See, I'm still using
we get the full face. There we go.
I'm still using the iPhone 7 because the Chinese slave factory hasn't turned out my 13 yet.
Now the iPhone 7, isn't that the one that the battery caught fire?
Yes.
Or no, that was Was that the iPhone 7 or was that the Samsung 7?
The iPhone, the 6 and the 7 both had problems with that.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, so it hasn't happened yet, but here we are.
Yeah,
I have my Casio.
My kids had iPhone 7s. They said the only Yeah. My kids had iPhone 7s and they said
that
they needed
really works good. There we go.
There you
go. Casio. Oh, what was I? Oh, I watched Squid Games this weekend. And
wow. I haven't seen that. What is it about?
The Game Leader. Oh, have you seen it, Jason?
I am familiar with its work. I have not seen the whole series because I'm the one guy who's against Korean torture porn, if you can believe it.
Is that a common thing?
Korean torture porn?
Yeah. No, because I thought it was. I did not enjoy it as much as I would have if they could have toned down the violence a little bit.
Well,
I mean, I just.
It goes back a ways. One of the first video artists goes back to the mid 1970s. A guy named Nam June Pak, a Korean, and again, it was extreme back then, and that sort of extremity continues on to the day. I mean, it's a little much for me. I mean, and I'm the guy with it puts the lotion in the basket ringtone on his phone, but
right.
What can I?
Well, it was in many ways. It reminded me of like a Stephen King novel, or we had when I was in like the 7th grade, we had a story called The Lottery, where every year the town would have you know what I mean, where they'd stone someone to death or something.
Oh yeah.
So that kind of
Shirley Jackson, wasn't that?
Yeah.
That Shirley Jackson story.
Yeah, that kind of story. You think I'd get used to, but the over the top violence was a bit much for me.
Yeah, well, even in the lottery, the issue becomes sort of the normalization of violence. We see what looks to be very boring and bland Midwestern people gathering to stone a woman to death.
Right.
Who at one point, puts herself and her children at risk. But again, I think that's in the authoress. That was what Shirley Jackson was writing against. Here she's a very intelligent woman in the 1950s being a writer. That was not necessarily a craft that was widely available to most Midwestern housewives, or in her case, New England housewife. Mm-hmm. She also wrote The Haunting of Hell House, or The Haunting of Hill House. Oh, yeah.
Well, anymore, you can just make up a writer's name and you can be, you can write however you want if you want to, if you're worried about the female thing, but that's not right. They should be allowed to write and be read.
Yeah. But again, any person who's writing is sort of a creature of their time.
That's true.
I mean, which is why taking sort of anachronistic attitudes towards people who did whatever they did 40, 50, 60, 100 years ago and applying modern standards, I think is a huge mistake. And it's one that's going to cause us to just sort of go through and sort of, I don't know, what was it that Stalin used to do with the people who were in the picture and then later on they weren't in the picture?
Oh, yeah.
Well, even the not just that's what they call cancel, but
nowadays, yes.
Even the fearing people of the game. I mean, we've got a school board that people don't want to run for now. Who needs that shit? Who need so who do we get as our school board leaders? Boris and Natasha.
Yeah. I would like Boris and Natasha though. Yeah. I mean, at least they were focused on moose and squirrel.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I'm just talking about you just get ideologues, and all we want our school board to do is, make a decision for the rest of the community as to who the superintendent is going to be, and kind of follow them and approve all the superintendent's moves for hiring and firing. So,
Mark, you and I, Andy,
we don't need.
at a time when the Pledge of Allegiance was said and then was not said, and then the phrase "under God" was a controversial thing. Now I don't think it's said at all. So I mean, there's always been a streak of politics in that business.
Here's what I don't like, and I've stopped saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay.
And when I'm asked to lead it at meetings, like for party meetings and stuff, I always start by saying, "I pledge allegiance," and then everybody else fills in. And that's that. Will you say the Pledge of Allegiance? And I go, "Yeah, I will. I pledge allegiance," and that's all I say. So they ask me to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I say the Pledge of Allegiance, Pledge of Allegiance, and that's. I don't say anything after that because
or you just stop it halfway through. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. Okay, let's get going, folks.
Exactly. I mean, I'm okay an allegiance to the country, but to a flag, isn't it? It's to me, it's like a religious iconography. A bit,
well, it's idolatry. It comes perilously close to idolatry.
Yes, and and there's some people brave enough. I mean, the Jehovah's Witnesses won't even do it, and they'll tell you it's against their religion. They can't say the pledge. So, I don't do it for religious purposes, though.
Not a big fan of the Jehovah's Witnesses, but going all the way back to World War I, those folks stood in opposition to the draft to the point where many of their leadership were, in fact, put in prison. They were made political prisoners by Woodrow Wilson, and absolutely refused to bend a knee on that. Again, not a big fan of the Watchtower. Don't mind answering the door with my robe open when they knock on the door, but I'll give them credit for sticking.
Oh, there's an image. There's an image.
Can I help you?
Well,
I'm picturing a potato on toothpicks, maybe.
What do you do when the Mormons come by?
Yeah. I didn't get the moniker Uncle No-No for no reason at all. I mean,
so do you invite the Mormons in when you're half naked?
Not half.
He's got that special underwear. The Mormons have that special underwear, so
there you go.
Several pairs in the house. But don't tell that to the police. They're still looking.
That would be an interesting thing. Hey, you guys got some spare underwear? I've lost mine. There we go.
Yeah. Hey.
All right, Jason's here. It's we're 15 minutes in, so I'm going to go to Susan's poem. Susan again is not here tonight, but the worker bee that she is, she wrote the poem anyway. Jason, you haven't been with us long enough. For about the last 12 weeks now, my wife has written a poem, a topical poem with news events, but she puts it in verse, and we read it, and it becomes sort of like our agenda for topics. Oh, so here we go. Here it is. Here's the poem, the October 25th poem by Susan Salisbury Sweetman. Here we go. Mudflows are creating an awful strain as Northern California has some heavy rain. Flooding, power outages, and strong winds, too. Evacuate to higher ground, you folks should do. Cinematographers in film are mostly men. Only 3% are female. Now, that's how it's always been. Hollywood is reeling when a prop gun is fired. Helena Hutchins is dead. She should have been admired. Ancient Rome was plagued with water full of lead. Today it's found in Benton Harbor, Michigan instead. You'd think the 2,000 years we might have learned there's no safe lead level to allay concern. Ohio has license plate that is quite new, but the illustration printed on it is not quite true. Pushing a banner would be very fake. The Wright brothers' plane is backwards by mistake. Those are the news stories that my wife decided to add to our agenda. Do you have any questions on any of those?
The only thing I can say is that if Alec Baldwin had taken my advice to never use or to use fire as a safety word, maybe there'd be a little less problem. I mean, I
guess the only part of that's the law and the law, the unions, and the industry will take care of that problem. Yeah. It will be.
I'd like to think.
I mean, it's happened only twice before, and when you think of how many guns are used, there will be stopgap measures put into place. What I find upsetting about this story are the people who wish to make it a BFD because it's Alec Baldwin and he's a progressive and has made fun of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And so now they want him tried for murder. Well, murder's one thing, if he didn't put the bullets in the gun and was told that it wasn't a hot gun, then, I'm not sure he's got much other than he was one of the executive producers on the thing, but still, there may be charges in that, but still, I think for the family of the dead person, I think it's just wicked to make it political.
Well, we still don't know exactly what happened. And yes, Mark, I would agree with you. Right now, bringing politics into it adds nothing substantive to the whole conversation, right? I mean, we don't know.
Right.
None of us were there. One would imagine that some kind of recording device was there at the time. I don't know. But there have been other directors. The director of The Twilight Zone, the movie, that got Vic Murrow killed. Now, granted, it wasn't a gun, but it sure was an explosion that was mistimed with a helicopter that got Vic Murrow and 2 kids killed.
Yep.
And he walked. You know, and in the footage, it's pretty damn grisly.
It is.
Had I been John Landis would have done 20 years because he recklessly and willfully had a callous disregard for life. And what can I say? I don't know what the setup was with Alec Baldwin. I'm not ready to crucify him just because I don't agree with him. But you're right. Someone hands him a gun, says it's a cold gun, and it's not. I mean,
plus the fact, what would they be?
Right?
They didn't really. They were just doing a rehearsal. They didn't really need blanks in the gun. Forget about bullets, because blanks have a charge too.
Yeah,
I mean, there have been people that have been killed by blanks. So that Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son, was killed by blanks.
Yeah, it's my understanding they were just sort of blocking out the scene and running a rehearsal. And
right, because there wouldn't have been any reason for the two of them standing behind the camera while the actual scene was being shot. They were just there for the rehearsal,
No, yeah, they wouldn't be. You wouldn't want them in the sight line of the actor, or the actor wouldn't want them there necessarily. Not that I've acted in too many professional movies, but it's. We always love it when the mighty take a fall. I mean, there's always going to be someone there. I don't remember there being a lot of sympathy for Dick Cheney when he shot his friend in the face and then made his friend apologize.
You know what? I have to take back. I have to take back what I just said about making this political. Because when Dick Cheney shot his hunting buddy, I was all over that. I mean, so I gotta take back what I just said. I mean, that was. But I'm sorry, that was funny. The guy didn't die, right? And it was his buddy that he shot.
Yeah. No, but
he has some permanent marks in his face at this point. But
make sure that, it did make sure that Cheney was never run for president, which at that time it was looking like it was a possibility. I mean, the man had his heart removed years ago. Unfortunately, he's and down a mine shaft where we soul. I don't know. Did make.
I'm not sure having your heart removed is I'm not sure having your heart removed is a prerequisite for being president.
Certainly, the opinion I have of him. Hey, once again, my phone is messing up, so I'm going to restart, and I'll be back in a few minutes, guys.
Okay.
We'll see you in a bit. We'll wait for you. What were we talking about? Get a Casio. Yeah, the reason I brought up the Squid Game is because the leader of the game, the guy who had all this island, all this material, all these things to play this game where people kill. He had all the things he needed to make this thing go. And in like episode 8 of 9, he looks at his watch, and it's a little Casio $10 watch you get at Walgreens, and I just thought that just broke me up. He's flying people. He's flying people in to watch these games. People, rich industrialists who watch these games for sport and stuff. It's a little bit like Hunger Games.
Got it. Got it.
But
yeah, it sounds that way. It's just there's a series of short stories like that. What was the one that was there was two movies that were about hunting men down. One was recent, and it had but when it was a long time ago, like in the 60s, and it had William Holden in it. It had Jane Fonda's brother,
Peter Fonda,
and this theme of like hunting innocent people with guns and putting them out into like. But there's been a theme like that in a lot of the literature.
Was Omega Man with Charlton Heston like that? Was there kind of a gunning down the remaining humans or something like that? I can't remember now.
Well, yeah. It was based on the story I Am Legend, and none of the movies have ever come close to understanding the whole premise of the story. Is that it fits into the I Am Legend thing. So the only one that comes close is the one with Vincent Price, which is The Last Man on Earth. But it actually gets the idea of what the I Am Legend title was about, but you didn't have it in that. So, and the Omega Man was basically he's the last man on Earth. He is a medical scientist that actually had a cure. He put it into himself because there was a plane crash, and he ended up being the only one surviving who's still human. Everybody else has the disease. He keeps trying to give the people who have the disease the cure, but they won't take it. Much like now. So he ends up just having to. He gets being chased by these guys. He ends up trying to find who the leader is. So we're talking about Omega Man.
Yes, fine movie.
Yeah,
classic 1974.
So. Yeah, but the written by I Am Legend, written by Malkovich, I think. What's his name?
Harlan Ellison. No.
I Am Legend wasn't written by Harlan Ellison. That was A Boy and His Dog.
Oh, fine movie.
Yeah.
I love the end of that movie. She didn't have particularly good taste.
Yeah, but it's a great line, wonderful line. Yes.
Yeah,
but I Am Legend. The whole reason for I Am Legend is the new society is the vampires.
I Am Legend was written by Richard Matheson.
There we go. Yeah, who also wrote Duel.
Yeah, which was a fine,
great movie. Duel, the Spielberg film with Dennis Weaver.
That one. He also wrote that film. Yeah. Wonderful, great premise, wonderful film. It was just one of the best. But anyway, the whole premise of I Am Legend is it's the human that is legend now, and that they're creating the horror for the people who are basically the vampires. That's the premise. That's why he's allowing himself to be killed. So I hope I didn't give away the end of the movie, but
Was it on this show that I was doing my premise of the superheroes who are people that we thought died too soon?
Was that
last week on this show, or was that it must have been something else. I was talking about having
people who died too soon, and they become Elvis is a superhero, Jack Kennedy's a superhero,
Elvis and.
They were all put on that CIA list to hide them out. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah, they hide them. Yeah, they hide them on this island where they come and get them when they need them, or they just use them as a think tank, And you can see some. It'd be great to have like some that are like getting really fat, or some just become health freaks or something like that. That'd be very funny.
Yes, that'd be a funny premise. Yeah, John Lennon would be out there.
John Lennon, Elvis, everybody that we thought died too young, as actually the death was faked so that they could be used as a think tank.
Yeah, you could have
And of course, you know, the
Jim Morrison.
really twist Jim Morrison. Yeah, the good twist on this plot. Yeah, like what's her name? Janis Joplin would be about
Janis.
73 right now. She'd still
Yeah.
be around. But anyway, the
She
real
wouldn't have a voice, but she'd still be around. You know.
Another plot line on this was they have to keep coming up with decent ideas to help humanity because everybody thinks they're dead already, so that they could just be gotten away with if they're no use to this commission anymore. So they still have to fear death all the time because they have to be useful. And that way it's like Squid Game. So
Oh, I see. Yeah. Squid Game.
There you go.
So it's
So
Squid
anyway,
Game with senior. Well, okay.
So and California's got this good news, bad news, where they've got these torrential downpours, which are putting out all their 9-month-long forest fires. You know, they've been going on since March, and unfortunately, in California, if you burn away all your green, you now have land that can roll down the hill because there's nothing holding it in place. So now they have to worry about mudslides and floods. So
yeah, it's the ground is so hard when the water gets there, it just is rushing out. I thought it was the weirdest thing in the world to see a rainstorm and then walk out and there's a basically the roads are nothing but rivers of water coming down the hill. It's like, this is California. How could you have rivers of water in California? You know?
Oh, did you see the story? I don't know if it was this week or maybe it was a couple weeks ago. The story about the people that are climate refugees. These are people that moved to Arizona or California, had the means to, and can move anywhere they want to. But now they're looking for like places like Duluth and Marquette, Michigan, and Sault Ste. Marie and International Falls and Canadian property because they're trying to escape the warming temperatures.
The heat.
Not that, but the warming temperatures still affect the northern climes too.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we where we used to have a
Duluth would be a good exit.
Well, they had the mayor of Duluth on calling it the San Francisco of the North. I'm not sure where she was going. I'm not sure where she was going with that. Does that mean that they have a bay, or do they?
Yeah, and nobody will come to Detroit. There still isn't people in Detroit. It's like there is no song. You can't bargain people to go into Detroit. It's like, which is basically it's basically Apocalypse Now. Honestly, it's an apocalyptic world there. It's sort of like if you wanted to shoot a movie about the end of civilization, you go there.
Civilization, yeah. Well, yeah. There's still a bit of the Packard plant that's around that looks horrible. That'd be a great place to be an apocalyptic. And the Fisher plant, Fisher Brothers plant on Piquette and is it Beaubien? Piquette, I think that's still around.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that plant is it's 2 blocks away from the Ford Avenue, Piquette Avenue plant, and that's where the Model T was developed. They didn't build it there. They built the Model T out in Highland Park, but they developed, and the Model A was built there. And that's that 4-story factory where you'd start, all the stuff would be at the top. You'd have all the parts, and the assembly line wasn't a line that moved along. They pushed the car along. So they'd start the chassis as soon as they got wheels on it, and then we'd get to the end of the hallway, and it would drop down to the next floor on an elevator, a little dumbwaiter, and then it would roll across, and it was sort of like an assembly line, but the line didn't move. So, but that's a pretty cool plant, and it's amazing that it was saved. It's historically significant too. So they probably get some federal funds for it or something.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can turn it into a nice museum. It
is a nice museum. I've been there. I haven't been there since, I gotta say, 2005, 2006 was the last time I was there.
Well, it's like Europeans ask about Detroit, and they kind of wonder why aren't you guys, holding on to these, you develop these cars and you have nothing of historical significance about them. You know, it's like you basically bowled over most of the stuff that was significant about building those cars.
Well, Henry Ford Museum got a little bit. I
Yeah.
mean, they got some significant stuff, and there's still some significant places. There's a plaque now where his first shop was at Bagley and Michigan Avenue. And just a
Cool.
plaque, no building left. So
Just a plaque. Yeah, well, plaques up. Yeah. I know we should. I'm waiting for the when we start actually, really promoting tourism, like like they did. Who's that guy who was like the rich and famous? It was always like lifestyles, the rich and famous.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Can't think of his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Hello, folks. Lifestyles, rich and famous. They would do something like that for the the Detroit ruins. You know what I'm saying? It's like, here we are, the Jefferson Freeway. There we go. Yes, there's a plant right there.
There are people that do
rich and famous.
There are people that do.
Oh yes, Richard Leach.
Robin Leach.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but there are people that do ruins tours in Detroit. You can go on a ruins tour if you want. Yeah.
Wow, cool. That's good. We should promote that. At least because that's. I mean, they show the ruins of Rome. They show the ruins of Athens. Why not? The ruins of Detroit.
Well, right there on the same street where I talked about the Fisher Brothers plant, and you remember Fisher Body, right? They started out as Fisher Paint. They didn't always do bodies for GM, but they were started out as the paint company for the automotive. But there's the Fisher Body plant, the Ford factory, and then just another block down was the Studebaker plant, and that burned down 06, I think. 06 or 07. That place just burned to the ground.
Was it an insurance deal?
No, it was abandoned. It had been abandoned. That's to your point. We don't do anything. We just abandon them, and it's there's no commercial value. There's no production value in it. So there is no value. So we don't look in this town. We don't look at either sentimental or historical value, educational value. We don't look at that. We look at production value. So.
Oh yeah. If you're not producing something, you're not worth it. There we go.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I've been driving through these neighborhoods lately, and it's like, there are still all these houses that are just rotting away. And it's right next. It's like block to block. One block, fantastic place, wonderful houses, brick houses, wonderful trees. Next block over. Horrible houses.
You know what? I'm 61. I'm 61 years old, and when I was a kid, my parents, my mom had grown up in Detroit, and my dad grew up in Pontiac, and so obviously they moved out to the suburbs so that I could, not have to live in that. But when they would take us back to Grandma's house, or you know what I mean, or the old neighborhood. It was like that back then, back in the 60s.
Really?
I'll never forget my grandmother took me, my mother's family is from Massachusetts, Brockton, Massachusetts. And she took me back there when I was 7, and we went like 3 weeks after 2 weeks. Maybe it even been 1 week. Now I think of it. The riot was on the 23rd of July, or was it in June? Mm-hmm. Whatever. Anyway, on August 1st, we were driving through the neighborhood where the riots happened. And because they had a house there. Well, the house survived. The trip was worthwhile because she saw that the house survived. But still, all around it, there were still houses smoldering. Weeks later, they still hadn't put out all the fires yet. And when we got out and we made our first stop in like Rochester, New York, we stopped in a motel for the night for this trip back east. And my mom says, how'd it go? I go, yeah, well, we saw your old house. She goes, what do you mean? I go, well, Grandma took us to the old house. What? She gets my grandma going, what are you doing taking my kid into the riot zone? And my grandma's like, the riot's over. There wasn't anything there. It was just people, cleaning up. Wow, what are you doing taking my kid to the riot zone?
Educating them, giving them an educational life.
Yeah, yeah. My kid got to see history. So
got to see history. There we go. I honestly, I almost want to go back to LA for my little journey through history too. You know, this is where I hid out. This is where I ran like crazy. Okay. You know, I was far away. I was up in Chicago.
LA has they do. Here's the thing about LA and New York and Chicago. Well, Chicago to less of a degree. And the two opposites would be San Francisco and New Orleans. What cities like New York, Chicago, Miami does it too, is they don't tear down a building unless they're going to put another building up.
Yeah.
And they don't let a building go to waste. They'll tear it down and put a new one up rather than let the thing just, deteriorate.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and I see that in Washington, D.C. too. These places, and I think it's because our land is so cheap and it's so easy to get in and out of Detroit on the freeways. People don't mind driving 45 minutes to go to work so they can go where the land is cheap, buy and build whatever the house they want.
Yeah.
Get their kids in decent schools where, there's not gangs and crap.
Yeah.
And, these other buildings and neighborhoods are allowed to deteriorate.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like, I don't know. I think we need to rethink how we do public schools and finance them.
I would not mind if we stop the model of you got to go through in 12 years and you need to meet these standards.
Yeah.
I would rather see kids go to school when they want to go. Give everyone a job, and if the job is unsatisfying and backbreaking and everything, that might give you some incentive to go to school.
Yeah. And
then just provide decide what the standards are and let people learn on their own too. I mean, when I didn't pay that much because I only paid like $50 a semester when I went to school, but it wasn't quite that cheap. But I think my semester hours were $12 an hour. So if I took a 4-credit class, it was $48 or something like that for the semester.
Well, I would be willing to go this route. I would say, why don't we turn high school into developing skills? Just like not necessarily going to college, but developing skills. So you basically go to high school to learn how to work, or find like a skilled trade or something.
That's a good idea.
And then make it like a shorter period, and then let kids, if they want to go on to college, just let them do it online.
See, all of my kids got jobs, and all of them had employers that, if they had the option, would work them the hours that they could best use them. And it'd be great if the schools could then accommodate that, of saying, all right, you're going to work 9 to 5, come into school 6 to 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we'll make sure
they're talking about having like around the clock schools in LA.
When I left LA, our son was in a year-round school. He went to school from, I think it was August 15th to December 24th, and then didn't go again until February 16th, and then went until July 1st. And so they had 6 weeks off twice a year.
I see. That's cool.
And then there were other schools that did it differently. There were other schools that did 6 weeks on, 3 weeks off, 6 weeks on, 3 weeks off, and then you advanced. You advanced not according to what year you were, how old you were, but where you were in the curriculum.
Yeah.
So an 8-year-old could be in the 5th grade, and a 12-year-old could be in the 3rd grade.
Well, if a 12-year-old is smart enough to get to college, I'd have them just go through college levels.
Yeah, and if it's a problem for them being with college students at college, have them do it online. They all know how to work online. After the last 2 years, they all know how to work online now. So
exactly. I mean, it's always like everybody's holding back the creative or the gifted ones. Just let them go online, learn whatever they want to learn. And the other thing, this is the other thing too, I think that's also important about online learning, is you're not in the room with a bunch of other people
that are holding you back.
Like, some guy doesn't want you to answer the question, so he tries to intimidate you. Or you don't want to go up to the board because you're afraid you're going to be ridiculed by these, bullies in the back.
Another thing I would do. Yeah, another thing I would do is I would pay kids for grades.
Oh.
And I would make it a wage. So in other words, let's say you're taking 6 hours. So I want you to make 75 bucks in a day. So if you can find a job that gets you 75 bucks a day, go at it. You enjoy yourself and you come back to school whenever, and we'll make it 24 hours. You come back to school whenever you want.
There you
go. You can do it online. You can do it. Just show us what you've learned. And you're not teaching don't teach to the test. I hate that.
Oh, get rid of the test altogether. I'm sick to death of the test.
Yeah, well, the tests are fine for getting the information we want to know. Hey, you know what? This guy's going to be a welder. I don't need him to completely understand weather patterns. If he has a rudimentary knowledge of it, that's fine. But you know what I want him to test well in? Yeah. I want him to test well in welding.
all I need the welder to know is how to speak English or write English. So that when there's an emergency on the wall and you can read the stuff on the wall and you know that it means something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not saying you can't learn a bilingual. Bilingual is great. I'm just saying you have to be able to write and read English,
That's fine, but I think I remember when I took a language, the foreign language helped my English.
Yeah.
Because, you know what I mean? Because now you're studying how another language deals with certain rules and how other languages deals with predicates and subjects. And, you learn about feminine and masculine forms of words and,
Yeah. Well, I'm just worried about if he can't read that, don't put the acid into the water. That's what I want to make sure he doesn't do. Don't put the acid into the water. Okay.
That's right.
Don't put the lead into the water. You have to be able to read that.
All right. Make sure nobody's in the house. Nobody's in the house when you light the match.
It's like, and so they can read signs like how to get off the road, exit here. That's what I'm asking. Okay.
You know what? I mean, there are some functionally illiterates that don't even know that. They just know what the arrows mean.
Yeah.
Even functionally illiterate can count. They know that the number.
And they're driving. 60. I'm telling you, they're driving.
Exactly. Yes, they are.
I seen them on the road. They're driving. Okay. Anyway.
And now that they've got Google Maps, they've got turn in 500 feet. They got the voice prompts for them that they don't even need to. Prompts. They don't even need to. They don't even need to read a map now.
Well, they got somebody can do it in Spanish for them. That's fine. Or in my case, Arabic, which is kind of, it was fun. She could drive, but she had trouble reading the signs. Like,
your Arab friend?
Yeah, my woman from Qatar, excuse me,
Qatar.
So she could drive, but she didn't know exactly where to turn off. She couldn't read Ann Arbor. She couldn't read speeds. So it was quite an interesting trip.
I'm surprised Dearborn doesn't have Arabic on their signs. Like you see, like over in Middle East, you'll see Arabic and then you'll see English underneath it. You think they'd do the opposite here? They'd have the English with the Arabic underneath it or something.
Oh, we should have 3 different languages underneath every sign.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And of course, who would hate that? Republicans. So that's why I like it.
Of course. Well, we have tons of people. Soon, man, we're going to be able to speak. They're actually coming up with that thing that Douglas talked about in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. They're almost developing a babblefish, an electronic babblefish, which will put in your ear.
Hold on. Keep talking. Sure. Somebody just left. I gotta see who left my house.
There's a babblefish, an electronic babblefish. They can put in your ear that will interpret any language that somebody speaks to you.
You taking off?
I'm gonna get some ice cream, folks. here's where the ice cream is for me. First off, I got to put away.
Did you hear the ice cream truck? That was me.
I hear the ice cream truck. It's in my house. I'm heading to the ice cream truck.
I got an ice cream truck.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, there it is again.
Here's my ice cream truck's in my freezer.
That's cool. Who just left? Did you come in or out?
Mark, this is becoming very, very strange.
I think we had a weed delivery. Hey, what happened to Jason?
I bet his phone messed up. And
he said he's got a new one on the way.
Yeah. Well, he's got a computer. I don't know why he's still using his phone. He's got a computer.
Does he have a camera on his computer?
I do not know.
You know what I did for my computer? I switched over to that Chromebook. I love it. The best thing about it is
Chromebook. I'm still trying to figure out how to use it, man.
Well, the reason I love the Chromebook is it's got really no hard drive. Everything is on my Google Drive. And it updates its software all the time. And so it's always, if it detects a virus in one Chromebook computer, they develop the fix for it, and then automatically your computer, you don't have to buy any software, you don't have to buy a program to protect, virus protection or anything like that. So I really like it. And it never slows down. Every Windows computer I've ever had eventually slows down. You know what I mean? You've loaded and unloaded so many things on the thing. It just gets gunked up. It's like a car that hasn't had its oil changed in a while.
Okay. Well, I did get a Chromebook. I'm trying to figure out how to use it a little bit better, but I'm working on it.
You'll get there. Anyway, what else we got in the news there? We didn't talk about the Ohio license plate. Did you hear about this?
Mm-mm.
Ohio, it must have been over the weekend because the story just came out, and it wouldn't have been something that would have been in the news today if they announced it. But what they did was they announced that they're going to have a new license plate, and the plate said something like Ohio, the birthplace of aviation. Because the Wright brothers, developed and built their plane in Dayton.
What is there? Is there a conflict with Kitty Hawk in North Carolina? If they keep saying,
well, Kitty Hawk is the birthplace of manned flight. They can claim that because that's the first place a man flew. But when you say aviation, the Wright brothers, they're trying to say that the Wright brothers built this plane at their bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio.
Oh, yeah.
So the first flight wasn't there. They just did it in Kitty Hawk because of the land that was there and the wind that they could use and all that stuff. Well, anyway, so Ohio, Secretary of State or State Department, whoever it is, Department of Motor Vehicles, comes out with this license plate now. That's one of the ones that you can choose as, your Pride of Ohio license plate. And it said Ohio on a banner, and the banner is flying on the back of what would have been the back of the Kitty Hawk plane. Unfortunately, the artist drew the plane backwards, so that it's actually pushing the banner because they had the plane backwards. And so that's what my wife was referring to when she was talking about pushing a fake banner in her poem this week. So,
got it. So the artist didn't know that the front of the plane was guiding the lift.
Well, if you look at the what was the name of their plane? I can't even remember the Wright brothers' first plane.
Oh, I can't remember.
Do you remember it? But anyway, it looks like a backwards Southwest Camel because the rudders and the stern are on the front, and the large wings are in the back. Well, when the Southwest Camel came out, 9 years later, whatever, they had reversed it, and they had the propeller in front. Behind that, the two large wings, and then the rudder and the stern was in the back. the rudder and the whatever the flaps.
Yep.
What can I say?
No, it's pretty good.
But
I've already seen a picture of Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know if he actually flew in it or not, but I remember he was actually on the plane of some sort. They showed him how it was operating. So,
is this the one where he was like standing on the wing while it was flying?
Teddy Roosevelt?
No, he wouldn't have. Teddy Roosevelt. When was he president? Was it in the 1900s or he was in the 1800s?
1900s. He was.
So he was like 1904 to 1912 or something.
McKinley was killed, and he took over for McKinley. Who just become president.
We're talking about seventh grade history here. Let me see if I can figure this out.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
Hold on.
So I think he was early in the century.
When was Teddy Roosevelt president of the United States?
I think it was 98 to 06.
McKinley was president from 97 to 01. Come on. Where's Teddy Roosevelt? Here, he was president from September 1901 to March 1909. So he did 2 terms.
There we go. Yep. And the Wright brothers flew in, I think, 09?
When was the Wright brothers Kitty Hawk flight? 03, I think it was.
03.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as a president, I know he went over and looked at it.
It was December 17th, 1903.
Yeah, well, they're also. I think they were developing planes for the Army, and I think one of the recent ones, one of the more advanced ones, he was able to sit in, or at least take a bit of a flight with. So,
yeah, we might as well ask what the plane was. What was the name of the plane the Wright brothers flew at Kitty Hawk? It was known as the Wright Flyer.
Sounds like a bicycle. Of course.
It does. It should sound like a bicycle.
The Wright Flyer. It's a bicycle. Yeah.
You know what's weird about a bicycle? In 1903, we still had the big unicycle front tire and the little guide tire in the back in 1903. I mean, I don't think we'd advanced that much in bicycle. And here, you'd think that somebody with a little bit more technology would have come up with a plane, but no, it was the bicycle makers.
There you go. Yeah. They probably have the most money available. They're the original innovators.
Could be. And back then, I'm telling you, back then you look at the cost of everything, and $10,000 was a lot of money, and it was probably easy to come by because there were coal mine owners and railroad owners and gold mining owners, and there were a lot of oil was getting big by this time because the automotive companies weren't as big as when Ford invented the assembly line. But there were automotive companies at the turn of the century. Oldsmobile was around.
Yeah,
I think Cadillac was around at the turn of the century. So. There's a story that needs to be told that the Billy, can't think of the guy's last name, the guy from General Motors, the rags to riches to rags to riches to rags story, the up and down life of. Who's the Billy that started General Motors? I'll get it for you here in a second. Billy Durant, William C. Durant. He created General Motors, and then they kicked him out, and then he came back with Chevrolet, and they got him back in.
Well, why did they kick him out?
He was making. He was more of a salesman than he was an engineer, and he was making promises that he couldn't keep, that his engineers couldn't keep. So.
Oh, I see.
And even though he had put the company together, he wasn't an industrialist. He didn't have the money that all, like C.S. Mott and all these other people that had the money that get Kettering. Kettering was the engineering guy. Mott was the money guy. All these people that came in, they had more voting power than he did. So it was like, we can get anybody to make bad decisions. Let's get rid of this guy. But then he came back with Chevrolet. Chevrolet was not really a manufacturing car model. Chevrolet was one car built by a guy named Chevrolet over in France, and he ran it on the Le Mans, and he ran it in races. He built great race cars, and basically Billy Durant said, "Well, we'll take that name and we'll go back to General Motors and get back in there." And Chevy's now the biggest, General Motors' largest selling nameplate. But it's really a French. It's a French. It was never a French car because the only French Chevrolets were built by Chevrolet to race. When it came to building cars for the public, they were all built in the U.S.
Wow, interesting.
I mean, I'm going to be a docent someday on some tour with all this useless information I have.
We driving around in a car that Model A. We're over there. It's where the original Model A's are built.
Well, the thing that's great about Detroit car history too is that you can say, not only was that the place where the Lincoln Town Car was built for 34 years, that's where Berry Gordy worked on the assembly line until he created Motown Records.
Motown Records. There you go.
That's very cool. And you know that you ever heard of Jam Handy?
No.
Jam Handy, before World War II changed everything because of the movement out to California. But a lot of Edison made all his films in New Jersey, and Detroit had a company called Jam Handy. They were a film company, and they did more raw footage of filming than any motion picture company in the world. And it was all industrial films for the automotive company.
Wow.
Training films for the employees that didn't speak English. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Commercials, product reviews, product announcements. They would film. So Jam Handy was in the studio. There's a building that needs to be preserved too, because it's one of the oldest movie studios on the planet, and it's right there it's right there by the General Motors building.
Wow.
Yeah, I basically I think I found my job in retirement. I need to go into historical preservation. So
there you go. You got to get yourself a Model T, and you drive around the Model T, and you got to go, this is it.
Petridge Farms remembers. Petridge Farms remembers.
Petridge Farm remembers. Yeah, just set up. I saw this thing in when I was in Portugal, and these guys drive around in old VWs, like VW Bugs, and they do tours for just people who are, they sign them on as tour guests coming from overseas. So if you do that in reverse, the people from England, the people from.
Were you the one that was telling me to retire in Portugal? Was one of the places that people are looking to retire?
Yes, it's relatively inexpensive, and
I just saw
free healthcare.
I saw a feature story on a family that did that. They moved to Portugal, and just everything that they did allowed them to move to Portugal, which basically was all their money was in investments. So it doesn't matter whether you're, if all your income is from investments. Doesn't matter if the check gets delivered to your bank in New York or if it gets delivered to your bank in Portugal. Just make sure you have an international bank and you can draw on it. Yeah.
You
can live wherever you want, I guess.
Chase Bank, I think, is international. I think there's a lot of Chase Banks.
I would think all banks are international now.
Yeah.
Except maybe Fifth Third Bank.
Oh, they're in Ohio. They're south of the Ohio. There we go.
Well, when Detroit Bank and Trust changed their name to Comerica, they did it with the intent purpose of becoming an international bank. So we're not going to name it Bank of America. It's going to be Comerica. It's sort of like we're partnering. We're Comerica. We're partners now. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So I had to go and try and find some international banking. And Chase Bank and maybe Bank of America have stuff overseas, but hard to find. You know, it's
Well,
not easy.
out in L.A. we had Barclays Bank, and that was a London bank. And I think there were, especially since we live near the airport, there were bank branches, and some of them were very small. But there would be like the Bank of Thailand, and the Bank of Korea, and they'd be very small front, strip mall type stores.
There was one
because we were so close to the airport, you'd see all that stuff.
Yeah, I was trying to find one. I was trying to find one that was in the Mideast that she could transfer stuff over. I think it was like the only one was there was Chase Bank had something out there, and what was the other? There was another one. There was a British something, not Barclay, but British something.
British Royal. I think there's one called British Royal. Yeah,
that was the one.
And there's one called the German one was UBS. That's a German bank. And Deutsche Bank. There's Deutsche Bank offices in New York and LA.
Yeah, Deutsche Bank.
I mean, there's plenty of international banks, but I think when I think of Barclays, that's the one that I think of as being the international bank.
Pretty good.
And I'm sure China wants to get in on it too.
Oh yeah, but no. Those banks don't have any FDIC protection, so.
No, well, I mean, they don't. They're run by a communist government. I mean, how? It's kind of they manipulate their currency and everything. I wouldn't trust. I wouldn't trust. Right now, I wouldn't trust a Chinese bank. They become less communist. The more they get into capitalism, the less communist they become. At least
they're a corporation. They're a national corporation. That's what.
Yep.
That's what That's what Hitler wanted, a national corporation. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. Yeah, I think they're. I think the stuff that they're doing is old school communism. Is what they're doing to the Uyghurs. That minority group in the west of China. So we don't say much about it because we really depend on China now. So we've kind of tempered down our anti-communist talk. Except when you're talking about fellow Americans, then you'll call them communists. But the Chinese, hands off,
Yeah, always, yeah. Well, I mean, that was the whole idea is that we were going to control them because we're going to have control over the markets and stuff. What ends up happening is they're controlling us.
Well, yeah, because they can make everything for 10 cents on the dollar. Yeah,
exactly. We basically handed over all the industries to them, and then who needs us? We're just a market. So I don't know. It was a weird concept to me when they introduced this, all these trade
agreements, Pacific trade agreements, NAFTA, Pacific Euro trade agreements.
And it always seemed like we were getting the worst end of it. I don't see, how making Americans earn less money makes it better for us, or how sending companies overseas with no reciprocity makes it better for us.
If we had the faith in the people, and all this stuff started like back in Reagan and Bush's time, and we all said, all right, you just give us a food basket every week and give us rent-free living, and we'll take our money in company stock. It probably would have worked out, but people don't trust that. People want to get paid in cash.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And you know what? And it could have easily gone the other way too. But the people that really have made off well with these trade agreements are the ones that are on top again.
Yeah.
When do we get to have a sock party for them?
A blanket party?
Blanket party. Yeah. When do we get to have a blanket party for them?
I don't know. I know. Well, they're giving us a blanket party. Once the robots arrive in mass, I don't know. There's nothing holding everybody back because it's sort of like, I don't understand who they're going to sell their stuff to. That's what I don't understand.
Well,
if you're gonna
here's
mechanize everything, go ahead.
Here's another thing too. Look at how well we did. I don't know when it's gonna come home to roost. But for a whole year there, we were giving everybody $600 a week to not work.
Yeah.
And the economy seemed to do fine. Then when they stopped doing that and everybody has to go back to work, now things are falling to shit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't because they were giving everybody this money. It was because, it had more to do with the supply chain. It's the
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I'm beginning to think that this what do they call it? The
universal income.
Universal income. That's it. The universal income. What would they be talking about? Like $15,000 a year or something like that?
I think what it sounds like is you are guaranteed like $20,000 a year. You work until you reach that, or if you don't reach that, you still get the $20,000 a year. So the idea is
would that be like a negative tax you pay? Like you file your tax return, you only made $18,000. Oh, here's your $2,000 extra.
Yeah, but the whole thing about that is then if everybody has an income, then you could take away all these giveaways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about the social worker stuff. You don't have to worry about this. Because everybody's getting paid, that means their food is supplied. They're contributing to the thing, to the system. So all the charity stuff you're developing doesn't have to be through the government anymore.
Shit sounds like Marxism. Sounds like Marxism.
It's all wrapped into you getting paid this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so your health care and all that stuff comes in there.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem I see with that. Is every job worth $20,000 a year? I mean,
I don't know.
You know what I mean?
Well, here's the problem with that is the robots are going to take over most of the jobs.
Yeah, and they don't get paid. They don't even get paid $20,000 a year. So you're right.
They get paid $20,000 a year. So it's sort of like you're needed only to consume stuff. Because if you don't consume
you need to
stuff,
give us money,
nobody gets any money.
So you got to give us money so we can consume, right? So exactly. the money is needed to keep us consuming.
Exactly. So in other words, we're just stockholders.
And when do the robots figure out that they can just eliminate us and just carry on without us? When did they figure that out?
Well, according to Asimov, pretty soon. Like just about when they start making themselves, which is about to happen. That the computers are starting to make themselves. So there's something called the where we can actually transfer our brain matter into robots. It's the what they call it, the geek something or other.
The geek effect.
Well, it's when the computers take over. Eventually, will take over.
Revenge of the Geeks.
Revenge of the Geeks it's like the geek apocalypse or something like that, where all these computers and all these things will eventually that will be so sophisticated that we will not be able to control it. Once that happens, then we become legend. Okay, it's like we are legend. I am legend. That's when that happens. Okay.
Huh.
But if you read Kurt Vonnegut's book, Play Your Piano, he lays out this whole thing about what's going to happen. Especially like having the workers paid like stockbrokers because the robots have taken over for them. So in essence, the robots are working for them, so therefore they're stockbrokers in the company, and that's how they get their pay.
So, what do you do? Invest in the robot then? Is that?
Yeah. I think the only way it's basically goes back to you have to own the means of production. So essentially, you have to own or control or rent out robots in order to stay profitable. Think of Ante-Down South.
So the robot really doesn't need to know English to do the plumbing, then, right?
No, he just needs to
The
know
the
zero
robot
one
just needs to,
0101. That's all he needs to know.
yeah, just needs to know plumbing.
Yeah. So when
Yeah.
he'll do all the physical work, he may end up doing all the calculations too.
And if we have robots in some of these jobs, like I'm thinking of the job that's changing is the waitress, because the rich businessman can't come up to the waitress and grab her ass like he used to, in good old days when men were men and women were property, So then the robots, though, they'll be able to do that. So they'll be able to go, hey, let's go over to Cheeky's restaurant over there and go back to, let's pretend we're grandpa and go back to ordering the way we used to. Telling the girl to smile.
You're thinking about Westworld, right?
Yeah, telling the girl to smile so we know how much to tip her.
There we go. You're thinking about Westworld at this point.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
See, I think it's just going to be like arms, just like the assembly line arms, just bringing food out to you, coffee. That's it.
Now, do you think we'll have? It's interesting because they got drones now doing Amazon deliveries.
Yeah.
So,
I was seeing them in Ann Arbor. They're playing around with the delivery drones.
Yeah. We had a neighbor. He doesn't live near us anymore, but he was a cop in Redford, and Redford was one of the communities that the auto companies were using as a test community for their automated cars, self-driving cars. And I said, what are you guys going to do when you got drivers that are all obeying the traffic laws because they're computers? He goes, well, surprisingly, they had already talked about it. He goes, yeah, that'll be kind of tough because, we won't know what race the programmer is.
Oh, no,
that's
a good joke. Oh,
he said probably what's going to happen is they're going to have such strict laws because the machines can follow them strictly without getting emotional about it, that they'll now start enforcing jaywalking laws more than they have.
Got it.
And so the thing is, and the people that do get pulled over will get the brunt of the fines.
Yeah,
because it'll never be the machine's fault.
Yeah.
The machine will have obeyed all the traffic laws.
I'm curious what's going to happen with bicycles. They'll probably isolate them off into their own lane.
I think I see that coming anyway. Do you see what they did to Grand River in Detroit?
No. What did they do?
They've got Grand River now. This is, I think, what between Greenfield and Lazar. So we're talking about, let's see, Greenfield, Southfield, Evergreen. So a 4-mile stretch of Grand River now. What used to be 9 lanes, because they had the parking lane. Then they had 3 lanes that you could drive on, and then a center lane for left turn. Right, that's 5, and then another 4 for the driving and the parking on the eastbound side. They've basically reduced that to where you've got a couple of lanes for driving, and then you got a lane for buses, you got a lane for the sidewalk, you got a lane for the bikes, and they're all very well marked, and they got curbs, and you can't really cross over into one or the other. And basically it does is it gets the bikes and the buses out of the way. The cars really, their parking now is more in the middle of the street than at the curb. The curb is for the pedestrians. The curb is for the pedestrians. So when you park your car, and Michigan Avenue is a little bit like that down by the old Tiger Stadium. That's a little bit like that too. If you've ever seen the parking spaces down there, they're now out in the middle of the street, and the curb is for the bikes, the pedestrians, and the buses.
Wow.
Which means a lot of people will just say, and I think they planned on this anyway. A lot of people are just saying, well, you know what? I'm just going to pay for parking rather than have to park my car in the middle of the street and have to walk through the bus lane, the bike lane, and the pedestrian lane. I think I'll just pay for parking in the back of the store. So
there you go. I don't want to take care of this. Yeah, it's a little spooky.
Yeah.
But I can see definitely the bus. Isolating the buses out. It does make some sense. So yeah.
I'd like to see, one of the things they always talking about light rail and about, how all these cities that have done light rail have done better. Well, yeah, I'm talking about Chicago and New York, and the cities that started light rail in the 1860s. It's a little bit different when you're trying to do it in the 2020s.
Yeah. Well, we had trolley cars all over the place.
We did,
and they ripped them up. We had it all in there, but they ripped them up because they wanted to sell cars.
Huh?
Yeah.
Do you blame them? That makes sense to me.
No, I get it, but then, as there is no reason you can't put, especially light rail on many of the roads headed straight out of town.
In Detroit, we have a thing called the Q line. It runs from the boulevard down to Jefferson Avenue along Woodward. I have one bone to pick with that. I've been on it. I like the ride. It's nice and smooth. It's comfortable. You get a lot of tourists, which are nice because they're like, they wouldn't. Commuters don't take the thing. For one, it's like a pub crawl type of thing. You know what I mean? You're just going from one restaurant to another. There's no work there's courts and banks at the one end, and there's the state. The General Motors isn't at New Center anymore, so it's all state offices up there. So you've got the state. The governor's got his Detroit office or her Detroit office there, and they've got all the state departments and everything have their offices up there at the other end. But in between that, it's all restaurant and retirement homes. And Wayne State and the Art Institute Library. Yeah. But anyway, but what they didn't do, and what I think they should do and still could do, is if that motherfucker is, it obeys the traffic signals. When that piece of shit is moving along, if it's coming to a light and it's not green, there should be a signal that turns that light to green, so that by the time that thing gets there, it's just breezing through. There's no reason that thing should stop. And the thing that's great about having that instead of a tube is the tube ones have to stop at every station because you don't know who's getting on or getting off. If they did it the right way, they could be like the bus. If nobody's getting on and nobody's getting off, if nobody's signaled the thing, don't even stop at the station. Just keep going on through. Yeah. Don't make it rapid transit. If you're going to call it rapid transit, make it rapid.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I just think it would be so easy to make that correction on this thing. And who would you be hurting? The people doing the cross street traffic. And who are doing the cross street traffic? It's people that are just going across the street to, somebody that went from the Harper Hospital over to a restaurant over on Cass Avenue or something for lunch.
Yeah.
They can wait,
Yeah.
Make this thing.
There's an argument about that too. Is like, they wanted the light rail, which would go like 50, 60 miles an hour down there and get people from the suburbs down to the city, and stop along the way at some spots, but mostly just getting people from the suburbs down to the city.
I don't have any problem with a souped up motorized vehicle with rubber tires and an electric or an internal combustion. I have no problem with that whatsoever, but I don't think you need to lay track for that stuff. Especially now that we got electric vehicles.
Yeah.
If you put some, let's say you take the Lodge and you just put a line over it like they did for the old streetcars with the electric line. And a lot of times, those lines are movable. You turn a corner, the driver would have to go back and pull on that electric conductor and move it over to the line of the street he was turning onto. Even when it was on tracks, they had to move that stuff. And they could make that all automated now, and I have no problem with that. And the reason I like that better is because you're not making any structural changes to the freeway. Yeah. And it'll keep the freeways in better condition because they'll always have to be cleared. You'll always have to clear, and that'll have to be a priority. And if people are upset because their cars that gets caught by having the train get the priority, that's what we want. We want people to take the train rather than their cars, or the bus, or the souped up monorail, whatever we want to call it. But I think it can be done. I think it can be done by improving our existing roads, having the technology we have, and using the technology, improving the technology, so that the signaling for the basically you're doing away with traffic accidents is what you're trying to do with
Yeah.
that's the only technology that needs to improve. And if that means, blocking cars or, only allowing cars to have a sensor in it that'll not allow it to go anymore if a train's coming by, you know what I mean? I mean, they can do that. People don't want it because I won't have freedom. Fucking freedom. I'm sick of this fucking. You know what? The people that want 700,000 people had freedom not to vaccinate, and they're dead now. So there's your fucking freedom.
There you go. Of course, yeah. I'm tired of that argument. It's kind of like I said. March comes up, we're going to have vaccines, but pretty much all the people that aren't vaccinated, they'll be pushing up daisies. I'm just tired of arguing about it.
Well, now we're going to allow kids from 5 to 11 to get the vaccine starting next week. And so now we're going to have to fight about that.
Yeah.
We had to fight about whether you're going to get it. Then we had to fight about whether your 12 to 18-year-olds are going to get it. Then we had to fight about. Now we got to fight about whether your 5 to 11-year-olds are going to get it. Ugh.
Yeah. Well, and it's all about the schools and stuff like that. Everybody's, I think the kids are too young for this. Well, I was given shots about rubella.
Exactly. There are my kids have had 11 to 12. It was 11 or 12. I don't know. Different shots in order to even go to school in my district. Yeah. And this is the one that they say no to.
This is what you're fighting over. It's like, I'm kind of like, and it's the same rhetoric I hear all from everybody who's conservative. It's the same sort of rhetoric. It's 1%. This isn't as bad as what's his name, and we didn't shut everything down. And then it's sort of like, what's the other argument?
Well, I'm starting to think like Sam now, because Greenfield says, why don't we just get everyone inoculated that wants to, keep researching, keep going on that, and if you don't want it, die. Just
there you go.
Die and get out of the way.
There you go. It's the Darwin theory. I think finally, you want the Darwin Award, you can have the Darwin Award.
You can have the Darwin Award. If Jesus is going to save you, let him save you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
I mean, I was.
Let Jesus do his work, baby.
If you want Jesus to do it, that's fine with me too. Go right ahead.
And when we're all gone and you're all alive and Jesus is here and you guys can do the ring around the rosy and pockets full of posy and you can hug and kiss and God bless you.
God bless you. All right. Yeah, I'm just kind of like, it's just too weird, man. Anyway, but my problem now is that as Santa Claus, soon to be, the primary group of people that are going to be coming to see Santa Claus will be unvaccinated, which is the 1 to 5 year old kids. Great.
But here's the good thing for you. You can probably have a mask, and nobody will know the difference because you got that beard anyway.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, hello, kids. Well, I have to talk to them and find out what they're actually going to do. If they're going to actually have barriers now, or we're going to actually have the kids with us.
Now, are you going to go out of town again, or how were you doing it?
Well, I'm supposed to be in Jackson this time.
Oh, that's not bad.
Not bad. I would prefer to go out of town though. I don't really like doing the stuff close to home. Sort of like, I'd rather travel somewhere. It's like I'd rather travel somewhere. But so that's it. I know I'll be vaccinated. I should not have any problems. I'm just kind of concerned about
I just got my booster on Saturday, so.
Ooh.
Actually, a week from Saturday. Actually, it was 2 Saturdays ago. I got it the week before last. So by this next Saturday, I'll be good to go. I can start diving into the pool again. I guess I don't know.
Cool. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to get mine in Ohio so I can get my last donut. So.
That's my favorite story. I went to Ohio so I could get a donut.
Yeah.
Oh my god! I mean, the gas it would cost me I could buy a donut for the gas it would cost me to get to Ohio.
But there's also a Waffle House down there, so that's another incentive.
Where's there a Waffle House in Ohio? I might make a trip.
There's two of them in Toledo. One of the Waffle Houses is on the way to the club. What's the club in what's the town? Where there's a club in this place in this town that's part of the chain.
I know what you're talking about. Hold on. Funny Stop? Funny no.
Yeah, Funny
Bone?
Funny Bone. Okay, so there's a Funny Bone at this place.
Right.
But there's a Waffle House just up the block from this Funny Bone.
Oh. How about that?
So, and I'm trying to think the exit.
You know what else they have in Ohio that they don't have in Michigan?
The Perrysville exit.
Perrysville, that's it. Perrysville. They have Shoney's in Ohio, and they don't have Shoney's here.
Oh, I don't think I've ever been to a Shoney's. What's that?
They're like Big Boy.
Okay.
Big Boy, Denny's, Shoney, Waffle House, Shoney's. Just basically a family diner that has like an 8-page giant menu that covers the whole table.
So the Asian part. This is the Mideast part, and this is the
exactly. Yeah,
this is the
here we got you can have your pad thai shawarma.
Yeah. your fusion cooking there, it's
fusion cooking. I like that fusion cooking.
Cheeseburger with some Thai and a little bit of this, There we go.
All right, Andy, we've done our 90 minutes, and
I know
I never did hear back from Sam. I'm sure he's enjoying his game right now. So
I'm sure Sam's doing good.
I got.
We should chip in to get a Casio. A Casio phone.
What's really cheap that he could use are those. I think they're Fire tablets that Amazon sells. Have you seen those? Every Christmas they sell them for like $25 to $30.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, the Fire wire.
They're a tablet. Yeah, the Firebook, not Firebook. It's Fire something.
Yeah,
but we get them. We get them for the kids. They were so cheap, Yeah, they all broke them,
and they're just connected to. So they're just connected to the Amazon system, or
yeah. If you got Wi-Fi, yeah, you have to have Wi-Fi. So you'd have to have a router that has a Wi-Fi signal on it. I don't know if I think every router they sell now.
Where do you get your Wi-Fi from? Where do you get your Wi-Fi from?
A company called Huawei.
Wow.
Ever heard of them?
No.
I don't know if they're in Ann Arbor. Yeah, they came in as a cable alternative, and they actually they bring us through a cable, but we don't order the cable package. We just got it for we just got it for internet.
Okay.
And it was $35. And then what we did, because we bought their cheapest package, which meant we weren't renting their equipment. So we went out and bought our own router. So the line comes into our house, we hook it up to our router, and so we're basically got our own Wi-Fi because of the system we bought. I think we bought a Motorola or something. I can't remember which one it was. I could go over and look at it. I think it is Motorola. We have a Motorola router.
Wow. But it's a line to
Motorola.
The house.
There's a name from the past. It goes throughout the house, and you can buy boosters for like everyone's bedroom and stuff like that, and it uses the electrical system to sort of conduct the signal. But we don't do that. We just bought one that's so powerful that our neighbors can pick it up. We just switch our password every once in a while, so our neighbors can't get in on it.
Okay. So all right. So I'll check this out. So essentially, you just pay like $35 a month.
$35 a month. It's called Huawei. Now, I'd look them up, Huawei.com, and see if they have Ann Arbor service. When they came over here to Livonia, they came from like Warren or Sterling Heights. That's where when they were first coming in. Now they've got enough in the community. I think they may have an office here. Okay. But when Livonia opened up there used to be cable companies would bid for contracts, and we had Time Warner. And we had Roadrunner, and we had AT&T, all these different services. Now it's like they said, we're not going to put it up for bids. If you've got the equipment to come in here, you can have Livonia as your anybody in Livonia. So we've got Xfinity, we've got Comcast, we've got AT&T, we've got Huawei, we've got what's the one? There's another one too. I can't think of it. Bright House is a system, and I think there's one called Google Fi. They're just, so it's wide open, which that's why they can get it down to $35.
Okay.
Because there's competition.
All right.
You know what I mean?
I'll check it out. Yeah. I just, I've been depending on Starbucks for my Wi-Fi.
So are you using data when you're here?
What's that?
When you're here, are you using data, your data plan? What do you use to broadcast?
Yeah, I use my data plan for my phone.
Now, do you have unlimited data?
I have unlimited data.
Yeah, keep using that. In fact, when you go to G5, I don't know if you're at G5 yet, but when you go to G5, companies like T-Mobile, they're reversing it. Instead of you using your phone to connect to Wi-Fi, what they're doing is they're saying, all right, now that you got G5, use your phone and set it up as a data point and then Wi-Fi off of your phone. So you're using your phone as your computer connection.
Oh, okay.
So that's only recently. And I don't know anybody that's done that yet. So I haven't done it because I'm waiting to hear the reviews on it. I'm waiting to hear somebody say, oh, this is the best thing ever. Or I wish I'd never done that. I'm waiting for those reviews to come in. So.
Well, yeah. So, I pay a little extra to try and use the, what do they call it when you make your phone into a Wi-Fi connection for your
hotspot.
Hotspot.
Yeah.
I got some amount of time for a hotspot, but
Well, who's your phone? Who do you get your phone? Who do you get your phone service through?
PBS or what is that? PBS.
Metro PCS.
There we go. Thank you.
Metro PCS. I think they're owned by T-Mobile now, and T-Mobile is one of the ones that are doing it.
Yeah.
See, because when we had when the schools before we had Huawei, we couldn't get all the kids on our Wi-Fi, and so they needed when the pandemic came, the schools gave all the kids a hotspot. They go, "You got the computers, we'll give you the hotspot," and so that wasn't a bad deal.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll check it out.
But anyway, we've gone way over our 90 minutes.
Time, so we have to say goodbye.
We'll see everybody next week, 8:00 Monday nights, right here on your favorite YouTube channel. And that's another thing I got to put on my list too. I got to create an off night YouTube channel so I can stop using mine. But anyway, we'll see everybody next week. Hopefully, we'll have more people here, and Jason will have his new phone. So
there we go. A new phone. He'll probably get a flip phone, a Casio. Anyway, so
we'll see you